Feilu Novel Network exclusive contract novel. Siheyuan. Salted fish system, whoever causes troubles. Traveling through the world of poultry-filled Siheyuan, he becomes a scumbag resident who starts off plotting against his purchased wife. My family is on four walls, unable to eat enough or wear warm clothes. It's almost impossible for he to change his relationship with his wife. At this moment, the salted fish system awakened. Just drink tea, take a walk, go shopping, eat, fish, cook, play games, pick up girls, and more to get rich rewards. Vampire Chinhuiru, Su Damao with a stomach full of bad water, steel rolling mill boss Yuzhu, morally upright first uncle, skilled in calculating third uncle, official fan second uncle. It has nothing to do with me, you can tinker with whatever you like. I just want to live a good life with my daughter. In law and a beautiful one. But if someone comes to provoke me, I'll kill you. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 001. Crossing the Courtyard, Goldfinger arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Woo-woo, no. No. Please. Woo-woo. He opened his eyes in a daze, pressing himself against a young girl. The girl's arms were already under her control, and a part of her chest clothes were torn open. Exposed the white skin inside. Her cheeks were covered in tears, and her gaze at he was filled with fear, despair, and unwillingness. A faint fragrance emanated from the girl's body and penetrated into He's nose. He's mind suddenly became much clearer and he quickly let go of the girl. The girl is like a frightened bird, getting up from the bed. Squandered into the corner of the house, holding on to his legs with both hands. Nervously and fearfully looking at He, trembling. She has a fair and clean face, with soft and delicate skin. Her eyebrows are slender and picturesque, and her eyes sparkle like stars. There is a small mouth under the small bridge of the nose, and thin lips. The corners of the mouth curved upwards, naturally carrying a hint of sadness. I still feel pity at first sight. Dressed in white clothes, covering his slender figure. The whole person looked frail and frail, as if a gust of wind could blow them down. A memory surged in He's mind. After fusing this memory, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Surprisingly, I have traveled to a world full of love in a courtyard house and even been reborn into a scumbag. He has been infatuated with era dramas recently, especially the drama, Love Full Siheyuan. Let him see with blood surging up. In a courtyard house, there is hardly any good person. Licking dog Yuzhu, vampire Chinhui like a family, bad feet with feudate Su Damao, virtuous Zhonghai, official fan Lu Haizhong, iron rooster Yen Bugue. When I used to watch TV dramas, I thought the main characters were bad enough. Only then did I realize that the world was far darker than I had imagined. Not only are these main characters bad and purulent, but the residents below are also not good things. For example, his predecessor was just an ordinary resident in a courtyard house, and he was doing bad things from the beginning. From a small perspective, it can be seen that there are also many animals among the other residents of the courtyard. Not to mention, the courtyard is filled with birds, which is truly worthy of its name. The woman in front of him, named Sasha, is his wife. But this daughter-in-law is her rotten gambling father. In order to raise gambling funds, it was sold to He. In this era, there is a shortage of resources and a lack of food. Money is already difficult to earn, let alone the hobby of gambling. The saying goes, 10 bets and 9 scams, all gamblers have no good ending. Wives and children are separated, families are broken and people are ruined. Selling children and selling women is not uncommon. He's predecessor was a drunkard with a hot temper. After only buying Sasha for a day, he started punching and kicking her. Today, it's even more important to deal with Sasha's misconduct. He traveled through this situation. Yusha doesn't care about her appearance or appearance. From Heye's perspective, they are all the top choices. It may be due to long-term insufficient food and malnutrition, causing some dryness in the body and yellowing of the skin. If living conditions keep up, both appearance and physique will be more perfect. In the 1960s, Yusha's figure is not at all attractive. This era emphasizes fart. Big stocks are good for nurturing, and abundant R and fat T are the key. However, with the gaze of Heye's traveler, Sasha is truly a masterpiece. The atmosphere in the room suddenly quieted down. Goo goo. At this moment, Heye's stomach made a sound. This sound disrupted the silence inside the room, and a strong sense of hunger surged throughout the body. He couldn't help feeling a bit embarrassed. He was hungry. Goo goo. Another gurgling sound sounded, but this time it was not from Heye, but from Sasha. But even if she is hungry, she remains silent. Heye's gaze suddenly became gentle. Alas, they are all poor people. At the same time, he secretly cursed his predecessor in his heart. I can't even eat enough. I don't think about how to feed my stomach, but instead go to harm others. A scumbag. He wanted to buy something to satisfy his hunger, but suddenly realized that he had no money on him. My predecessor was just a temporary worker at the Red Star steel rolling plant, and I have not yet become a full-time employee. The monthly salary is only 17.5 yuan. Once the salary is paid, the predecessor will go on drinking and gambling. I have spent all my money and can't even eat enough. He cursed inwardly. I'm really living a miserable life. He originally wanted to ease his relationship with Sasha. But because he had no money on him, he couldn't even treat Sasha to a meal. Ding, salted fish system binding. The host only needs to take a walk, go shopping, eat, fish, cook, play games, pick up girls and other daily activities every day to receive rich rewards, divided into daily tasks and random tasks. Ding, daily task trigger. Walk for 10 minutes, reward 10 roosters. He was pleasantly surprised. The standard gold finger for the traveler has arrived. In the 1960s, there was a shortage of resources. Most people only eat coarse grains, roasted sweet potatoes, and a little salty lumps every day. Even so, wanting to eat enough is a very difficult thing. Most people eat in a semi-full state every day. It's already very good to not starve to death in this era. It is only possible to have meat on special holidays. There are only a few people in the courtyard with good conditions, including Yuzhu, Yuzhu, and Su Damao. Zhonghai is an 8th-level fitter with a monthly salary of 99%. Yuzhu is the head chef of the Red Star steel rolling plant, with plenty of oil and water, and no worries about food and drink. Su Damao married Lu Xiaoa, the daughter of a big capitalist, who was also a projectionist. When going to the countryside to play movies, what I catch is a bowl full of food. Even the three of them couldn't eat meat all at once. In this era of material scarcity, everything is supplied in limited quantities. Everything requires receipts, including food tickets, meat tickets, cloth tickets, oil tickets, bicycle tickets, TV tickets, and even manure tickets. There are hundreds of various types of bills. In order to improve this situation, the country issued a unified bill called an industrial roll. To purchase any item, you only need to provide a certain quantity of industrial rolls to proceed with the purchase. Just because a large number of bills have already been issued and industrial rolls have just been introduced, they cannot be popularized in the short term. Ticket limit. Even if the people have money in their hands, if they don't have receipts, they can't spend it. And with this salted fish system, he can earn a lot of rich rewards by doing some simple tasks every day. In this era of material scarcity, live a fairy-like life. Are you hungry? I'll go buy some food. Don't squat on the ground, it's too cold. He adapted to his identity and stood up. I took a step forward and prepared to help Yusha up. No, no, don't come over, please forgive me. Yusha's face was filled with fear as she curled up her body. Push hard towards the back wall, wishing to bury your body inside the wall. Chapter 002. System Rewards, Chicken with Rice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pooh, scumbag. He cursed inwardly. What exactly is this predecessor that scared such a beautiful woman into such a state? Being able to marry such a beautiful woman is simply a blessing that has been cultivated for generations. I don't know how to cherish it, but I still beat and curse. He stayed in place, not moving forward, afraid of stabbing again. Excited to Sasha. Try to make your voice gentle. I'm sorry, it was all my fault before. I drank too much alcohol and my mind was a bit confused. Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. I won't hit you again in the future. If you don't want that, I won't force you either. You are my daughter.in.law, and I will take good care of you and not let anyone bully you. Yusha was shocked and looked at He with a skeptical gaze. A pair of eyes were filled with mist, and tears were like broken pearls dripping down their cheeks. Really, really, really. She stuttered out a few words, half believing in He's words. He nodded and said, really, I swear. The ground is cold, get up quickly. After hesitating for a while, Yusha got up trembling, but did not get to bed. But instead, he walked up to a tattered chair and sat down. The chair made an unbearable sound, if it weren't for her slender figure. The chair may collapse directly. He knew that Yusha was afraid, but she still didn't believe in herself in her heart. Unconsciously, a wave of pity emerged. He let out a sigh. Knowing that it is not something that can be achieved in a short period of time to ease relations with Sasha. Being able to do so is already a great progress. The top priority is to quickly complete the task, then receive rewards, and focus on filling your stomach. Wait at home while I go buy something to eat. He called out and left. Walking on the road, a gust of cold air blew over me, and it was freezing outside the door. It didn't snow, but the cold wind was like a knife. Looking around, you can see the mottled city walls. The blue-gray walls are full of a sense of time. The alleys outside the courtyard are also well connected, leading to different streets. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed and a warning sound sounded in He's ear. Ding! Complete daily tasks and reward 10 roosters. They have been placed in the system space and can be used according to your mind. He glanced at his system space and indeed found 10 chickens inside. I found a hidden place and waited outside for a while. I just carried a big rooster and walked home leisurely. Inside a courtyard house. Auntie sneaked out of her own room and then arrived at He's doorstep. Looking inside through the window, I saw Yusha sitting on a tattered chair without saying a word. Ah! What a sin! Auntie sighed, just now Yusha's voice was so loud. They live in the same yard again and can hear it clearly. I have a clear understanding of what has happened in my heart. Grandpa was afraid that things would become too big, so he asked Aunt to come out and take a look. After all, Grandpa is equivalent to the ruler of a courtyard house. If there is too much trouble, he will definitely be blamed. When Aunt returned home, she met He who had come back from outside. Seeing the chicken in his hand, he couldn't help but take a few more glances. Good morning, Auntie. He greeted Auntie. Auntie didn't reply, as if she hadn't heard He's voice. He lowered his head and hurried home, as if avoiding a plague god. He couldn't help but smirk bitterly when he saw Auntie's appearance. The reputation of the predecessor is really not average. This child is really pitiful. He has such a good face, but his fate is so poor. Auntie looked at Grandpa Zhonghai, who was drinking tea, and couldn't help but sigh. Zhonghai put down the tea and said, He himself is a thug. Marrying him would be good. Aunt Eat sighed and said, just now, I saw Heyi buy a chicken. Buying chickens based on his family's conditions is too extravagant, he's not prepared to continue living. Yi Zhonghai was taken aback at the words, but he remained silent. Sasha, are you hungry? I bought a chicken and now I'll stew it for you to eat. Heyi raised the chicken in his hand and said to Sasha. Ding. Random task trigger. Cook a meal, eat enough, reward strength +10. As soon as he finished speaking, the system's warning tone rang out in his ear once again. Heyi is overjoyed, truly worthy of the salted fish system. No matter what you do, you can trigger various tasks and receive rewards. Getting rich is not a difficult thing at all. Gollum. Yusha's eyes lit up and her throat couldn't help but flip up and down. Heyi noticed this small detail and smiled silently. In the deserted house, it took a lot of effort to find a useful set of things. Start plucking, cleaning, cutting, marinating, and finally simmer with water. I walked to the side of the rice jar, lifted the lid, and looked inside. The grain has bottomed out, and you can see the green-brown bottom of the tank. Scoop out all the rice grains and cook. 2 hours later. The aroma of chicken lingers in the room. Heyi picked up a piece of chicken with chopsticks, put it in his mouth, and tasted it. The chicken has been cooked for a long time and is already rotten. With a gentle bite, the chicken will detach from the bones. Although there was no seasoning added, there was still a faint fishy smell. But maybe I'm hungry, it tastes really delicious. Put the pot on the tattered table. The rice cooker was also brought up. The fragrance of rice mixed with the aroma of chicken, interwoven together. Make Heyi's index finger move greatly. He quickly took 2 bowls of rice and gave Yusha a bowl. Hurry up and eat. Then he picked up his chopsticks and began to feast on them. Yusha hesitated for a moment, but saw that what Heyi said was true. This is the beginning of action. When the first bite of rice entered, she couldn't help but cry. Why are you crying? Heyi stopped his chopsticks and couldn't help but ask. I haven't had such good rice for several years since my mother passed away. Sasha sobbed and said. Heyi sighed, and Sasha's background was really pitiful. Fortunately, she had traveled, otherwise Yusha would have been even more tragic. Bring the bowl over. Heyi saw that Sasha was only eating white rice and didn't dare to pick up the vegetables. He spoke gently. Yusha was stunned for a moment, and reluctantly glanced at the rice in her hand. But as soon as he gritted his teeth, he still handed it over to Heyi. After Heyi took the bowl, he scooped a spoonful from the pot with a spoon. Then it was fastened onto the rice. The soup of the chicken soup completely seeped into the rice, and the chicken bowl was also raised high. He placed it in front of Yusha and said, don't just eat white rice, eat more vegetables. Yusha looked at the bowl in front of her, somewhat surprised. Then moved, tears welled up and he said, thank you, thank you. She thought Heyi wouldn't let herself eat anymore. But I didn't expect to get myself so much chicken. As soon as Heyi saw Sasha's appearance, he guessed what she was thinking in her heart. Comfort said. Chapter 003. Stick memes rubbing rice and throwing them out by ear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Don't be afraid, eat well, our days will become more prosperous in the future. Half an hour later, the desktop was in a mess. Heyi took a long breath and put down his bowl and chopsticks, feeling like he had come back to life. This meal was really comfortable. Sasha also had a faint blush on her face while eating, and her forehead was slightly sweating. The smile on her face showed that she was very satisfied with the meal. She stood up, poured a cup of hot water, and placed it in front of Heyi. Then, without saying a word, he began to tidy up the table. Heyi took a sip of hot water and watched as she was tidying up the household with Sasha, feeling that this kind of life was too happy. Ding, complete random tasks, reward strength +10, the system's warning sound rang in his ear, followed by waves of warm water flowing through his body in a regular pattern. Wherever the warm current passes, waves of comfort are transmitted. The muscles bulged slightly visible to the naked eye. He could clearly feel that his body had become much stronger, and now he could beat his original 3 selves, more than enough. The chicken is plump and there is still a lot of leftover in the pot. And he deliberately left the chicken head as a precaution. When he first went out, he specifically glanced at Su Damao's doorstep. There is a cage at the door, but there is only one chicken. It indicates that the time when he traveled happened to be when Bang Gung stole a chicken and ate it behind the cement pipe at the Red Star steel rolling plant. In order to prevent being falsely accused, I deliberately left a rooster's head. Su Damao's 2 chickens are both hens raised to lay eggs. In this way, even if there is a commotion, one can easily get rid of suspicion. Squeak. The door of Heye's room was suddenly pushed open, and a small figure, holding a bottle of soy sauce in his hand, rushed in. It was the stick meme that stole Su Damao's chicken and ran back from the Red Star Jia steel plant. As soon as he returned to the courtyard, he smelled the smell of stewed chicken. Then I followed the scent and found Heye's home. He was not the only one who just ate chicken, but also his sister Xiaodang and Huaihua. The saying goes, half a big boy eats me to death. At his age, when he had a large appetite, a little chicken was not good enough to eat. Thinking about the deliciousness of chicken, the greedy worm of the stick was once again hooked up. Without hesitation, he broke into Heye's house. His nose sucked hard twice before walking to the side of the iron pot. At a glance, I saw the remaining large pieces of chicken. He laughed heartily twice and said, "There's chicken." I reached out and wanted to grab it to eat. Pop. He slapped on the back of Kanji's hand, preventing Kanji's movements. He didn't expect that it would be in this situation when he first met Bang Gung. He doesn't show any respect to the beasts in the courtyard. I just want to live my life well and not provoke anyone. But if someone provokes him, he won't be polite either. Ah. Bang Ji let out a painful cry and angrily looked at Heye, questioning, "Why are you hitting me? This is my home. You broke in without knocking on the door, and I want to ask what you want." Upon hearing this, Heye's face turned cold, and Bang Ji was still so straightforward and resolute. Just so young, with such an unreasonable appearance, it's like a replica of Jia Zhang's family. It can be seen from this that Jia Zhang is a more unreasonable person. Ding, random task trigger. Drive away unintended guests, reward 10 jean cotton quilt per bed, currency 10 yuan, the system's prompt sounds in my ears. Upon hearing this, Bang Ji was taken aback and loudly said, "I never knock on the door when I go to the house of silly Zhu. Silly pillar never says me. Why knock on your door when you enter your house? And don't you have chicken in your stew? I'm so young, it's time to replenish my body. Aren't you two already full? Why don't you give me the remaining chicken to eat, so I don't have to waste it?" Speaking again, he started to grab the chicken from the pot and eat it. He grabbed Bang Ji's ear and walked towards the door, thinking about him. "Ouch, it hurts. Let go, let go. Where is the opponent of Heye in the stick meme? His ears are concerned and he cannot break free." Finally, he was pushed out of the door. Heye just let go. Bang Ji rubbed his red ears and looked angrily at Heye, saying, You bully me, I must tell my grandmother." Heye said coldly, "This is not the home of silly Zhu, it's not something you come to whenever you want. It has nothing to do with me whether you can repair your body or not. It's silly Zhu's problem to be willing to spoil you. But I'm not related to you, there's no need to spoil you. Hurry up and leave. Don't come back to my house, we don't welcome you." After finishing speaking, ignoring what the stick meme said, he turned around and entered the house, closing the door. Bang Gung looked resentfully at Heye's room and took 2 steps back. "Humph, you wait and see. Bang! When he stepped back, he didn't notice anyone behind him. When I turned around, I suddenly ran into the person behind me. Pop! The soy sauce fell to the ground and made a crisp sound. A bottle of soy sauce splashed all over the person's body. Zhonghai heard the screams of Bang Ji and thought something had happened. Hurry up and come out to check. As soon as she walked up to Kanji suddenly turned around and hit him. The soy sauce in Bang Gung's hand was smashed and stained all over Zhonghai. After dyeing clothes with soy sauce, it is very difficult to clean. Zhonghai's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and he was about to scold the stick meme twice. It was too careless. But the stick meme was first reported by the villain. Grandpa E, what are you doing? Don't you have long eyes? You smashed all my soy sauce, you'll compensate me. Zhonghai's face turned black and he said, it was clearly you who hit me. Then I don't care. If it weren't for you standing behind me, the soy sauce wouldn't have broken, said Kanji angrily, you must compensate me, otherwise I'll tell my grandmother to cause trouble at your house. Upon hearing the 3 words, Jia Zhangshi, Zhonghai also felt a headache. He also doesn't want to offend the Qinhuairu family. So reluctantly, he took out $1 from his own pocket and handed it to Kanji. He suppressed his discomfort and asked kindly, Kanji, what just happened? Why do you make a scream? Bang Ji explained the matter once, and Zhonghai understood the reason. This meme is really just like Jia Zhang's, they are both unreasonable people. But on the surface, he said, well, this He really doesn't even know how to accommodate a child. Alright, hurry up and go home. Stick meme collected that 1 yuan and left happily. Zhonghai couldn't help but wonder as he looked at the soy sauce on the ground. Where did the stick stem come from for soy sauce? You should know that in this era, it is not easy to have enough to eat, let alone add various seasonings. It's simply a manifestation of luxury. With the conditions of the Qinhuairu family, they would rather not add soy sauce when eating than save this amount of money. After Zhonghai returned home, he said to Aunt E. Chapter 004 Warns wives to be vigilant of poultry in courtyards. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Go and tidy up the soy sauce in the yard. Aunt E inquired about the reason, and Zhonghai briefly explained it in 2 sentences. Auntie nodded, then took a broom and a dustpan and went into the yard. Who was that person just now? After he entered the room, Sasha couldn't help but ask with confusion. Come, sit here and rest for a while. Let me tell you about the situation inside the courtyard, so that you won't suffer losses in the future. He gestured for Sasha to sit opposite him. After Yusha sat down, he said, our quadrangle is divided into 3 courtyards. Front, middle, and back. There is an old man living in every yard, responsible for handling the trivial matters inside. The person living in the front yard is Mr. Yen Bugue, a primary school Chinese teacher. Skilled in calculation, even if one's own children want to eat at his place, they need to pay. Ah! Sasha was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. These 3 masters' family of 6 relies solely on his salary to sustain themselves. Although skilled in calculation, it's not particularly impressive in a courtyard house. Don't be a bad person. Ye's language is astonishing. The courtyard, which we are currently living in, is quite impressive. Not only the vampire Qinhuairu's family, but also the righteous hypocrite Zhonghai and the steel rolling mill boss Yuzhu. Vampire. Sasha couldn't understand. He patiently explained, the conditions of the Qinhuairu family are still good. Not only do they have a monthly salary of 27.5 yuan. There is also the assistance of Zhonghai and Yuzhu. Yuzhu used most of his monthly salary to help their family. And when her husband died, there was also a large amount of compensation in the Red Star rolling mill. But they always cry about poverty and sell poorly. He won the sympathy of the people in the courtyard and refused to repay anything borrowed from others. The child just now is called Bongdeng, who is the son of Qin Huairu. The upper beam is not straight and the lower beam is crooked. He is a typical little white-eyed wolf, no matter how well others treat him. I won't remember others' kindness in my heart. You should have seen the appearance of the meme just now. You can imagine what the people in his family look like. How could there be such a person? Sasha was a little angry upon hearing this. Next, let's talk about Zhonghai, who is the one grandpa in our yard. Normally, it may seem fair and just, but in reality, it has its own ulterior motives. He spoke seriously. Sasha has just arrived at this quadrangle and doesn't know anyone inside. And she looks so innocent. If you are tricked by the people in the courtyard, it's not acceptable. So he needs to tell Sasha the true face of these people in advance. Whether she believes it or not, at least she will leave an impression of having more embankments. After a long time, she will gradually recognize these people and protect herself. Self-interested. Yusha was puzzled. Yes, Zhonghai has no children, so he has always wanted to find a candidate for elderly care in a courtyard house. So I set my sights on Yuzhu and Qin Huairu. As for the twists and turns inside, I can't explain them clearly for a while. Anyway, be careful of him and don't let him trick you. If anything happens in the yard in the future, you can silently watch and I will also explain to you. Yusha nodded and silently took note. Then there is Yuzhu, whose nickname is Silly Zhu. He is the boss of the steel rolling mill, even the cafeteria director dare not easily offend him. In the kitchen, he said one, but no one dares to say two. Every day, they steal public food from the cafeteria and give it to Qin Huairu's family to eat. Regardless of any difficulties faced by the Qin Huairu family, it's right or wrong. We will spare no effort to help them. Besides helping Qin Huai as a family, Yuzhu has never helped anyone else in the courtyard. Even discerning people can tell that Yuzhu has a body that greets Qin Huairu. Sasha seemed a bit scared upon hearing this. It's okay, don't be afraid, I can protect you, he said with a pleasant expression. As for the backyard, it is Mr. Ayres Lu Haizhong who lives there. This is a real villain, constantly thinking about getting promoted and getting rich. If I have nothing to do, I will go to the leader's place to give a small report, hoping to use it to get a promotion and a salary increase. Normally, if you hear their family scream, it must be him hitting his own son. When it comes to treating one's own children, bangs are not at all kind, either hitting or cursing. I completely treated them as a punching bag. In my opinion, his children will definitely not provide him with retirement in the future. Sasha seemed to have thought of her own experience, her eyes slightly red. He knew that she remembered her own sadness. Comfort said, the past is over, and with me accompanying you in the future, those unpleasant things won't happen again. Yusha wiped her tears with her sleeve and nodded. He continued, and what you need to pay attention to the most is Su Damao in the backyard. He is a movie projectionist at the Red Star Rolling Mill. This person is selfish, morally upright, and extremely jealous. I can't see anyone living better than him. Once I find out who lives better than him, I will definitely try my best to do bad things. And taking advantage of the opportunity to go to the countryside to show movies, I couldn't get involved with those big girls and little wives. But maybe it's because I've done too many bad things and still can't have a child. The only person you can come into contact with in this courtyard is Lu Xiaoyi. She is Su Damao's daughter. Law, a lady from a wealthy family, but her fate is not good. She married a scumbag. And the one you can't mess with the most is the deaf old lady in the backyard. She is a member of the Haizhong family and the true ancestor in our courtyard. She has clear eyes and a clear mind, and usually doesn't care about right or wrong in the courtyard. But the old lady has no children and is also selfish, leaning more towards silly pillars. In the future, you must pay attention when living in this courtyard house. There aren't many good people in our courtyard, so it's best for you to stay away from them. Otherwise, we will definitely suffer a big loss. Let's not provoke anyone, just live our lives quietly. But if they provoke you, tell me, and I will vent my anger on you. Yuzhu stood on the chair for a long time, as if she had finally digested what he had said. She was a bit scared and couldn't help but ask, is it really so scary in our yard? Chapter 005. Yuzhu's mouth is low, kicking off with one kick. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. He took a sip of hot water and moistened his throat, saying, you shouted so loudly before, but no one came to help. Do you think this is something that should happen in a normal yard? He didn't say anything else, but Sasha seemed to understand, and her face turned a little pale. I will remember what you said well. For a long time, she digested what he said. My face has also returned to its normal color. Then stand up and prepare to go out to wash dishes. He stopped her and said, I'll do this rough job. Your hands are so tender, and if they stick too much oil, they can easily become rough. When did Yuzhu hear such words? She felt like she was wearing honey on her ears. My face couldn't help blushing. Most men in this era are straightforward and rarely speak sweet words. Yuzhu lowered her head and said, women wash dishes there. In her memory, both herself and the family she knew were women washing dishes. After all, in this era of valuing men over women, it has become common sense for women to do household chores. Let me wash it. He smiled and said, if you want to wash dishes, I'll buy a pair of leather gloves for washing dishes when the time comes. After putting on your gloves, wash the dishes so you won't hurt your hands. Before that, I'll wash the dishes. Just rest assured. Upon hearing these words, Sasha felt a strange feeling in her heart and felt a bit flustered. He suddenly became so good, causing her some confusion. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have thought she was dreaming. He picked up the dishwashing basin and walked to the public pool in the courtyard to start washing dishes. At this moment, Yuzhu walked out of his own room. When he passed by Heye's side, he stopped and said, oh, isn't this the famous street skater in our factory? I didn't beat my wife at home and ran out to wash dishes. What's wrong with you? Can't your newly married wife stand you and run away? So big a person, still a temporary worker until now. I finally had my peach blossom luck and married a wife. How long has it been? My wife ran away again. Tsk tisk. He discovered that Yuzhu's mouth was really not ordinary. Ding. Random task trigger. Counterattack Yuzhu, reward 10 pots of corn germ oil, each pot is 5L, and the currency is 10 yuan. He stopped his work and said coldly, my wife is full of food and drink, resting at home. I was afraid her hands would freeze, so I came out to wash the dishes. On the contrary, it's you, who is almost 30 years old and doesn't even have a wife. I'm not afraid of others gossiping about you behind your back. Upon hearing this, Yuzhu exclaimed, who dares to gossip about me? I don't have a wife, it's not that I can't get married, it's because my vision is high. I am the head chef of the Red Star steel rolling plant, earning a monthly salary of 37.5 yuan. There are still 2 houses left. It's easy for me to marry a wife on this condition. He sneered and said, I see you can't get a wife because you're not clear about widows. Those who want to propose a marriage to you, as soon as they see you with a widow, they immediately give up their minds. It seems that you are quite fond of widows. It's better to marry them directly, and from then on, you won't be a bachelor anymore. Yuzhu was furious when he heard this and said, are you looking for death? How dare you arrange me like this? How could I possibly marry a widow with this condition? As he spoke, his hand clenched into a fist and fiercely hit He hit He on the head, and if he hits it this time, He will definitely feel dizzy and even have a broken head and blood flow. Yuzhu's actions were not of any importance. As his fist was about to hit Heye's head, Heye's hand reached out and stopped in front of Yuzhu's fist. It was as if his palm had been placed in advance, and Yuzhu specifically hit his palm. Bang! The fists intersected and made a dull collision sound. Yuzhu looked at Heye in surprise, as if he couldn't believe his fist would be caught. You! He just said one word. Heye kicked over and hit Yuzhu in the stomach, kicking him out completely. He couldn't have done it originally, but he received a system reward of strength plus 10, which is already incomparable. Yuzhu fell into the hands of Heye, which can only be considered as his misfortune. Bang! Yuzhu fell heavily to the ground, trembling all over, feeling as if he had been thrown apart. My whole body is in pain. After a while, I finally regained my energy. His gaze at Heye was full of surprise, obviously not expecting Heye's power to be so great. Immediately, a wave of anger filled my chest. He must have been careless just now. Otherwise, how could he be defeated by Heye? You should know that he has never lost a fight with anyone since he was young. His physique is 5 years old and 3 years thick, coupled with years of cooking and spooning in the kitchen. It is much stronger than the average person's strength. Otherwise, Su Dumao wouldn't have been bullied by him and had no temper at all. He had just stood up and was about to continue his attack when a voice came over. Silly pillar. Qin Huairu walked out of her own house. Passing by Heye's side and taking a glance, he lost interest. After all, everyone in the courtyard is aware of the situation of the Heye family. That's really poor, unable to help the Qin Huairu family at all. So for Heye, Qin Huairu naturally turned a blind eye. She walked up to Yuzhu and grabbed his arm. Just like two people are married. What's wrong? Silly Zhu's face softened slightly when he saw Qin Huairu. Silly Zhu, our family is a bit overwhelmed. You know, there are too many children in our family, and my mother-in-law is like that. Qin Huairu began to suffer in front of Yuzhu, and her voice also became somewhat choked. Qin Jie, it's not a big deal either. Come with me. I still have some food at home, you can take some. Yuzhu couldn't resist Qin Huairu's attack at all and immediately patted his chest to show his hospitality. When he took Qin Huairu away, he said to Heye, "You're lucky this time, if it weren't for Qin Jie. I will definitely make you look for teeth everywhere." After finishing speaking, he let out a cold snort and returned to his own room with Qin Huairu, obviously going to get food and money. Ding! Complete random tasks and reward 10 pots of corn germ oil, each pot is 5L, with a currency of 10 yuan. Ding! Random missions offer additional rewards, including a set of pots, pans, ladles, and pots, worth 10 yuan. Heye sneered, completely ignoring the threat from Yuzhu. He also didn't want to meddle in Yuzhu's affairs. Yuzhu was willing to let the widow ruin her fortune and become a destitute household. It's completely self-inflicted and not worthy of sympathy. Heye finished washing dishes and went home. Qin Huairu followed Yuzhu into the room. Yuzhu readily gave Qin Huairu 10 pounds of stick noodles and 5 yuan, saying, "Take these for now. If they're not enough, I'll figure out a solution." Qin Huairu was moved and said, "Silly pillar, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even know how to live my life." Yuzhu smiled and said. Newcomers kneel down for various support in their new book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A beginner in the industry doesn't understand anything. I hope to receive a great collection and appreciation from readers. Please be active in the comments section, move your fingers, and let the author see you. I hope to receive strong support from the big shots. As we all know, the author's new book achievements are very important. Whether the author has the motivation to write depends on the awesome of the leaders. You hold the fate of this book in your hands. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. My coding speed is not fast either. But as long as there is strong support from the big shots, I will do my best. Here are some small rules for adding changes. Flowers, 500 plus 1 watch. Evaluation votes, 300 plus 1 change. Reward, 3 rewards plus 1 watch. Monthly pass, 3 plus 1 change. Make up for what you owe later. Kneel down and beg for everyone's support. A beginner in the industry doesn't understand anything. I hope to be greatly sought after, collected, and liked by readers. Please be active in the comments section, move your fingers, and let the author see you. I hope to receive strong support from the big shots. As we all know, the author's new book achievements are very important. Whether the author has the motivation to write depends on the awesome of the leaders. You hold the fate of this book in your hands. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. Seeking collection, seeking flowers, seeking comments. My coding speed is not fast either. But as long as there is strong support from the big shots, I will do my best. Here are some small rules for adding changes. Flowers, 500 plus 1 watch. Evaluation votes, 300 plus 1 change. Reward, 3 rewards plus 1 watch. Monthly pass, 3 plus 1 change. Make up for what you owe later. Kneel down and beg for everyone's support. Chapter 006. Kitchen Utensils Replacement, surprised by Sasha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What kind of 2 languages does a family say, Bang Ji, Xiao Dang, and Wai Hua? These 3 children are so good. I really like them. Always treating them like my own children, I definitely can't watch them go hungry. Qin Huairu glanced around Yuzhu's room. I found some dirty clothes and said, when I take the things back and put them away, I'll come and collect these dirty clothes from you, and then wash them. It's not convenient for you, a big man, to have no woman at home. Just leave these things to me. Yuzhu smiled and said, Qin Jie, you are really a good person. If it weren't for you, our family wouldn't have known what kind of mess it would be like. Qin Hui asked in confusion, what was the conflict between you and he just now? It seems like you want to beat him up when you look so anxious and pale. We are all in the same yard, it's better to avoid conflicts. As soon as Yi was mentioned, Yuzhu became angry and said, Qin Jie, you don't know how unpleasant this kid just spoke. He said I can't get a wife because I'm not clear with you. Those who wanted to propose a marriage to me immediately gave up their minds when they saw me with you. He asked me to marry you directly. You said I'm a yellow flower kid. I haven't been married yet, how could I be with a widow? Qin Huai's heart quickened a bit as he heard the words. She had never paid attention to Yi before, and never expected that his gaze would be so sharp, revealing the key at a glance. She tentatively asked, do you think so too? Then I won't come to see you again. You should wash your dirty clothes yourself. Don't let others misunderstand. Yuzhu saw Qin Huairu angry and quickly said, I know better than anyone what kind of person Qin Jie is. Of course I won't believe that kid's words. Qin, don't be angry. I didn't say that, it was that kid who said it. Qin Huai breathed a sigh of relief as he saw Yuzhu so nervous. It seems that Yuzhu was not bewitched by that person named Yi. Qin Huairu gave Yuzhu a white glance and said, what's wrong with widows? Widows can't have happiness anymore. Are you looking down on widows? Upon hearing this, Yuzhu reacted and quickly slapped himself in the mouth, saying, Sister, you are my sister. Look at my mouth. As you know, I speak so straightforwardly. Sometimes it's done without thinking, I don't mean to belittle you. Don't misunderstand. Qin Huairu smiled and said, I believe in you. But there was a hint of anger in his heart. Yi, who spoke without any restraint, actually orchestrated himself behind his back. We can't let him get better. That he is a thug. You should stay away from him when you meet him on a regular basis. If he were to hurt me and touch me, it wouldn't be worth it. Upon hearing these words, Yuzhu's face immediately turned red with anger. How can a man be said not to be in front of his desired woman? He immediately said angrily, "Don't worry, the next time you meet him. I must educate him well. With his little ability, he is not my match." He returns home. Sasha is holding a cloth and carefully wiping the tables and chairs at home. He opened the tattered cupboard, and mold had already grown inside. The wooden boards in the interlayer are somewhat rotten, and some places even have holes. Except for the 3 bowls in his hand, the cabinet was empty. Put the 3 bowls inside your hands into the cabinet. The cabinet seemed to be overwhelmed and made a creaking sound. It looks like this cupboard won't last long either. Close the cabinet door, walk to the chair and sit down, looking around. The room has old-fashioned red brick walls. There is nothing brushed on the surface. It looks full of a sense of time. The furniture is also scattered, with only a wooden bed, a simple wardrobe, a decaying cupboard, a round wooden table, and a few tattered chairs. After the baptism of time, the furniture has decayed and the surface has been covered with a gray layer. Many places have been scratched and carved into an indescribable shape, without even a bolt shape. It's really like a beggar's nest, with only a few walls around. Squeak. Bang dang. Bang. When Yuzhu was wiping the cupboard, it made a creaking sound. Immediately afterwards, the sound of wooden boards falling came from inside. Then 3 bowls fell and smashed onto the ground, making a cracking sound. Ah! Sasha let out a cry of surprise and quickly squatted down. I opened the cupboard and checked it. The wooden interlayer in the cabinet fell off, and the 3 bowls placed on top were all broken into several pieces. Her cheeks instantly turned pale, and fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. In this era, half a bowl of rice is very precious. Not to mention 3 bowls. Sasha knew she had caused a big trouble, so she stood up at a loss and said, "Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." As she spoke, her eyes turned red, and tears began to swirl around them. She was prepared to be punished or beaten, and her body trembled uncontrollably. He walked up to her and Yuzhu couldn't help but close her eyes. But the imagined slap did not hit his own face. He touched Sasha's head and smiled, "Fool, this is not a big deal. You don't have to be so afraid. I won't blame you." Sasha opened her eyes and looked at He incredulously, "Really, really?" He smiled and said, "Really, it's not your fault. This cupboard has been around for many years, I'm afraid it's older than us. The cabinet has long decayed, coupled with years of seepage inside. It's not sturdy anymore, even if you haven't touched this cupboard today. I'm afraid the cabinets may come apart in just a few days. The saying goes, don't go for the old, don't come for the new. These 3 bowls are already somewhat dilapidated. It's perfect to exchange for a new one. I put a brand new set of pots and pans in my box, but I haven't taken them out yet. Take this opportunity to take it out and use new ones for everything in the future. It also represents a new beginning for our family." Upon hearing this, Sasha saw that He really had no intention of blaming herself. I just breathed a long sigh of relief. He carried a chair to the front of the cabinet and took down a box from above the wardrobe. After turning her back to Sasha and opening it, she placed the brand new set of pots and pans in the system space. Then he pretended to take it out of the cabinet. A brand new iron pot, 12 porcelain bowls, a gourd ladle, 3 iron porcelain pots, and a bamboo chopstick. One by one, they were taken out and placed on the ground. Sasha looked at the things on the ground in surprise and said, "Do we still have such a brand new set of pots and pans in our house?" He nodded and said, Chapter 007. Picking up glass and anger at Lu Haizhong. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the future, these things will belong to you for use. Upon hearing this, Sasha was overjoyed like a child and quickly walked to the side of pots and pans. Touch left and look right. I can't let go of these things, just like looking at my beloved toy. He understands that for Sasha, a set of suitable cooking tools is necessary. It will be more convenient to use. And it also looks pleasing to the eye. These pots and pans are really beautiful, said Sasha happily. When I was at home before, everything was old. Even if there is a gap on the bowl, I am not willing to throw it away. When I used to eat, if I didn't pay attention, either my hands or my mouth would be scratched. Not only our family, but also the uncles and aunts next door. It won't be replaced for many years. I will definitely take good care of these things and won't damage them again next time. He watched as Yushikin spoke so much to him, indicating that she was slowly emerging from the previous shadow. And she gradually became a part of her family. As time goes by, he gradually eases the relationship between the two people. Yusha will gradually accept him. You find a place to put these things first, and I will replace them with a new cupboard, he smiled. Yusha nodded and placed all the pots, bowls, ladles, and pans in the corner. Save yourself from being accidentally damaged again. Then he squatted next to the cupboard and started picking up the broken porcelain bowls that had fallen to the ground with his hands. Don't do it, I'll do it. He walked up to Yusha's side and stopped her movements. These porcelain bowl fragments are too sharp and can easily cut your hands if you don't pay attention. Let me pick them up instead. Saying this didn't mean Sasha was speaking, so he pulled her aside. Start picking on your own. Yusha only felt warm inside her heart. From childhood to adulthood, no man has ever treated himself this way. Even my own father treats me with a lot of criticism. I never had a good expression, and even ended up selling it to myself to pay back the gambling money. After picking up large pieces of porcelain bowls into the trash can, there are still some small fragments. He accidentally pricked his finger and couldn't help but let out a soft moan. Oh, are you okay? Sasha realized something was wrong and was startled. She quickly squatted next to He. A faint scent rushed into He's nose, and He smiled and said, "It's okay, it's just a puncture. My skin is thick, it's not a big problem." However, Sasha grabbed He's finger and carefully examined it before her eyes. When I saw that He's fingers were indeed fine, I breathed a long sigh of relief. Be careful. Just finished speaking, she finally realized. My movements were too intimate, so I quickly released He's palm. A blush appeared on the face. She lowered her head and whispered, "Don't pick it up with your hands. It's too dangerous. I'll go get the broom." After speaking, he turned around and went to search for a broom. He looked at his fingers and smiled slightly. In no time, with the efforts of the two, all the broken porcelain bowls were cleaned up. Bang! Two people just sat down and drank some water. The door was suddenly pushed open by someone. Mr. Air had a big belly in his bangs, his hands behind his back, his forehead facing the sky, and his nostrils facing He. The command said, "Su Dumao's chicken has been lost. We need to hold a general meeting of the entire hospital. You should go quickly." He frowned slightly. What's going on with the person in the courtyard? I don't knock on the door when I come in from the stick meme. Now Lu Haizhong doesn't knock on the door even when he comes in. It seems that this is not his house, but the house of these people. Ding, task triggered immediately. Blame the unwelcome guest, reward with ticket plus 10, currency 10 yuan, the system's warning sound rang in He's ear. Uncle Air, why didn't you knock on the door when you came in? He asked him politely. Knocking on the door. Why do you knock on the door? Lu Haizhong snorted coldly when he saw someone questioning him. I'm here to inform you to hold a general meeting of the entire hospital. So many households, if they all knock on their doors, they can knock until it's dark. In the future, if I have anything to do, can I just push open your door, said he coldly, you don't even need to knock on the door. Upon hearing this, Lu Haizhong's face turned pale. Of course, he couldn't say, yes. Otherwise, with the character of He, a thug, he would definitely be able to do such a thing. Of course not. I don't have time to talk nonsense to you now. Hurry up and have the entire hospital meeting. Lu Haizhong felt that his authority had been provoked by He, and he made a note of it in his heart. Suddenly, his nose moved. Hey, what's this smell? People in this era are too sensitive to meat flavor. Just like non-smokers who are very sensitive to residual smoke. Whenever it's meat, everyone's nose becomes even more sensitive than a dog's. Just as Lu Haizhong was about to enter the room to check, He stopped him and said, Uncle Air, what's going on? Just as I entered the house, I didn't knock on the door. I'm still preparing to break through. If that's the case, don't blame me for reporting you directly to the neighborhood committee. I'm accusing you of trespassing on a residential property. Can you still secure your position as second uncle? Upon hearing these words, Lu Haizhong's body stiffened and he stopped in his tracks. He was really afraid that He would go to the street neighborhood committee to sue him, so he would definitely be scolded. His eyebrows tightly twisted together, suppressed by a thug to death. This made him extremely unhappy in his heart. Okay, you're amazing, I remember you now. Let's wait and see. He gave He a fierce glare and then angrily left to notify the other residents. Su Dumao's chicken has been stolen. Hurry up and have the entire hospital meeting. At the yard meeting, Su Dumao's chicken was stolen. Ding, the task is completed immediately. Reward with ticket plus 10, currency 10 yuan, He, that person just now is what you called, second uncle. Why doesn't he speak any truth? Sasha witnessed the entire process just now and felt that the person in the bangs was really unreasonable at all. It was clearly my own fault, but I shifted the blame onto He. When he left, he even threatened He was just a scoundrel. He smiled and said, there are too many animals like this in the yard. What you see is just the tip of the iceberg. In the future, when you are alone at home, you must be careful of them. Sasha nodded. You stay at home, I'll go check the situation. I also want to go. Sasha mustered up the courage and said. He didn't want her to participate in the affairs inside the courtyard. But since I live in such a courtyard, I cannot avoid dealing with these people. It would be better to adapt earlier, as this can also provide some precautions. So He nodded and said, okay, you can go too. But after you go, no matter what happens, don't speak, just silently watch. If you can agree, you can go with me. Sasha nodded, knowing in her heart that He was protecting herself. Okay, I can't speak. Chapter 008 Further Nonsense. The Crime of Robbery with a Stick. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For Courtyard. All the tables, chairs, and benches are ready. On the square table in the middle. The one sitting above is Yi Zhonghai, the one on the right is Lu Haizhong, and the one on the left is Yan Bugui. Below are other people sitting in the courtyard. He took Yusha and found a corner, sitting quietly there. The theft of chickens has nothing to do with him, so he doesn't want to attract attention from others. As for what's going on in the yard, it's all their business, and he doesn't want to participate. Mr. Lu Haizhong, who had already seen the people coming, stood up and loudly said, today we are holding a general meeting of the entire court, and that's all for one thing. Su Dumao's family's chicken was stolen. At this moment, silly Zhu's house happened to be stewing a chicken. Next, Mr. Yi will preside over this meeting. Grandpa Yi Zhonghai looked at Yuzhu and said, I won't say much more. Let's get straight to the point. He Yuzhu, did you steal Su Dumao's chicken? He Yuzhu shook his head and said, no, I didn't steal it. I'm not a thief. Why steal their chicken? Su Dumao pointed at He Yuzhu and said, you're lying. This chicken must have been stolen by you. Otherwise, where did the chicken stewed in your house come from? He Yuzhu said, I bought it. Can't I even afford a chicken? Grandpa Lu Haizhong. Where did you buy it? He Yuzhu. I bought it at the vegetable market. Grandpa Yen Bugue said, which market is it? Is it Dongdan Market or Chaoyang Market? He Yuzhu. Chaoyang Vegetable Market. Grandpa Yen Bugue said, that's not right. From here to Chaoyang Market, you can take a bus, and the fastest round trip is 40 minutes. Not to mention your skill in buying and slaughtering chickens. When did you finish work? He Yuzhu suddenly didn't know what to say. Su Dumao gloated and said, silly pillar, there's nothing to say now. You must have stolen this chicken. Yi Zhonghai said, silly Zhu, give you another chance. To be honest, did you steal this chicken? He Yuzhu instinctively glanced at the stick beside Qinhuairu. When I came out of the Red Star steel rolling plant today, I saw Bang Ji, Xiao Dang, and Huai Hua behind the cement pipe. 3 people were stealing chicken. The chicken I ate should be Su Dumao's. Bang Ji dared not look at He Yuzhu and lowered his head. He Yuzhu knew in his heart that if he didn't admit it, he would definitely find out about Bang Ji in the end. Isn't it just a chicken? I can afford it. This chicken can be considered me. He was about to admit when he was interrupted by a voice. I know who stole this chicken. Kanji suddenly shouted loudly. Everyone's gaze was focused on Kanji. Who stole it? Grandpa Yi Zhonghai asked. When I came back today, I smelled the smell of stewed chicken in He Ye's house. Bangji pointed to He Yi sitting in the corner and said, I went in and saw that their pot really stewed chicken. And he was a bit guilty and even kicked me out. You see, my ears are still blushing, it was him who twisted them at that time. He Yi furrowed his brows slightly, not realizing that he was already sitting in the corner. I didn't want to attract others' attention, but the trouble still took the initiative to find him. The cold touch came from the palm, and I lowered my head to take a look. Only then did she realize that Yusha had placed her palm on the back of his hand, with a worried expression on her face. He gently pinched Yushasha's finger and smiled slightly, indicating that there was no need to worry. Ding, random task trigger. Prove that you are not a chicken thief, reward divine level woodworking skills. The system's warning sound rang in He Ye's ear. Jia Zhang nervously examined Bang Ji's ears, with a look of heartache on his face. She pointed at He Yi and said angrily, good kid, even stealing a chicken is fine. We caught him with our family's meme and even twisted his ear. You're really not a good person. If you lose money, you must lose money. My obedient grandson's ears must not be twisted for nothing. He Yi said coldly, Bangji broke into my room today without my permission. If you want to steal the chicken I stewed, don't worry about the origin of this chicken. Just his behavior alone, I can report him to the police for robbery. Twisting his ears is already light, even if you give him a beating, he will have to endure it. Upon hearing this, Jia Zhang's face changed and he said with a stern and introverted tone, you're talking nonsense. How could my meme possibly be robbed? He must have smelled the chicken stewed in your house, so he went in and wanted to eat some. Upon hearing this, Bang Ji's face turned pale. After all, he is a child. He was directly charged with robbery, which frightened him. Jia Zhang still needs to speak. Qinhuairu was afraid that things would escalate, so the stick meme was at a disadvantage. So he quickly stopped Jia Zhang and said, Mom, what we're talking about now is about Su Dumao losing his chicken. The stick meme has twisted its ears, let's take it as a lesson, don't say anything. Jia Zhang closed her mouth upon hearing this, but her face was very ugly, and her gaze at He became unfriendly. But there was no further silence. Grandpa Haizhong sat quietly there, but his mind was reminiscing about what happened today. Auntie told herself that when He returned, she had a chicken in her hand. At that time, Auntie was still puzzled. With He's family background, could she only eat chicken after that? So He has a strong suspicion. Haizhong looked at He and said, He, did you steal the chicken? He shook his head and said, I didn't steal the chicken. Uncle Lu Haizhong said fiercely, He, don't deny it. Silly Zhu is a cook at the Red Star Steel Rolling Mill, bringing back a little from the factory is enough. He can't steal chickens. On the contrary, it's you, your family is so poor. I am just a temporary worker in the Red Star Steel Rolling Plant, with a monthly salary of only 17.5 yuan. It's good to be able to eat enough, but can you also indulge in the luxury of eating chicken? When I called you today, I smelled the smell of stewed meat in your room. It's just that I didn't react at the time, but now I think it must be stewed and stolen chicken. He remembered how He had brushed his face before, and his heart was filled with anger. Now is such a great opportunity, of course Lu Haizhong will not miss it. His gaze towards He was fierce, as if he had determined that he was a thief. Su Damao had a sudden realization expression and said, It's you, it must have been you who stole it. I almost wronged silly Zhu. Yuzhu breathed a sigh of relief as everyone recognized that He had stolen it. In this way, not only did I save myself one trouble. Stick memes have also cleared the suspicion. And for Yuzhu himself is not satisfied and naturally won't reveal the truth. He gloated and said, even if our family is poor, we must have ambition. What kind of man is stealing? I feel ashamed to be in the same yard as you. The people in the courtyard looked at He with strange eyes, discussing whether He was a chicken thief or not. Chapter 009. Yuzhu is trapped. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He said coldly, Today, both silly Zhu and I stewed chicken, but I bought my chicken. I have evidence to prove it. On the contrary, silly Zhu is the most suspicious. Recently, I have heard that silly Zhu and Su Damao have had some conflicts. Su Damao ran to the cafeteria and reported to the leader of silly Zhu that he had an improper relationship with Qin Huairu. So the two of them had a conflict, and silly Zhu deliberately retaliated by stealing Su Damao's chicken, which was a normal thing. And just now, silly Zhu couldn't even explain the origin of the chicken, which made it even more suspicious. If you want to falsely accuse me, you must first prove your own innocence. Upon hearing this, Yuzhu suddenly stood up and pointed at He, shouting, Don't talk nonsense. I am the head chef of the Red Star Steel Rolling Mill, even if there is a conflict with Su Damao. It's not like stealing a chicken from him. Yezhi asked, Where did your chicken come from? Yuzhu said, This chicken is leftover from the leader of the hospitality factory. I don't believe it, I request everyone to check together. Otherwise, your mouth opening and closing will become evidence, which is too childish. Yuzhu angrily said, Just take a look, my chicken has just been stewed and hasn't been eaten yet. Third Master Yan Bugue said, First Master, let's take a look. If silly Zhu cannot clear the suspicion, there is no way to continue questioning He. Upon hearing this, Haizhong knew he was making sense and said, All right, his second uncle, could you please come and fetch that pot of stewed chicken from silly Zhu's house? Grandpère nodded in his bangs and brought over the pot of stewed chicken. The aroma of stewed chicken wafted throughout the entire yard. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Haizhong, Lu Haizhong, and Yan Bugue all took a serious look, but couldn't tell anything. Haizhong looked at Su Damao and said, Look, is this chicken the one you lost? Su Damao walked over to the table and carefully looked into the pot for a while, saying, Grandpa these chickens all look the same. How do you want me to distinguish them? Anyway, it wasn't that He who stole it it was this foolish pillar who stole it. There must be one of the two people who didn't run. He also came to the table to check. Grandpa Lu Haizhong sneered and said, "What do you see?" He said coldly, "Foolish pillar lies." As soon as he spoke, everyone looked at him with surprised eyes. I don't know where he saw Yuzhu lying. Yuzhu angrily said, "What evidence do you have when you say I'm lying?" He pointed to the chicken inside the pot and said, "Everyone, look at the chicken in this pot. It's a complete chicken. How could the leaders in the factory leave a whole chicken after eating? So this chicken must have stolen Su Damao. Silly Zhu, what else do you have to say now?" Yuzhu was furious and said, "You're talking nonsense. This is the chicken I bought when purchasing from the factory. I took one for stewing soup, and my disciple Ma Hua can testify to me." The crowd in the courtyard was in a fit of uproar upon hearing these words. Ah, silly Zhu's courage is too great. He even took the public chicken and stewed soup for himself to drink. Didn't you see that when silly Zhu usually goes back to the courtyard, he's always weighing a few lunch boxes? They all come from the factory. Didn't silly Zhu say that all the things he brought back were left by the factory leaders? In that case, you also believe that it's a problem for everyone to have enough to eat normally. How could there be anything left? Silly Zhu doesn't know how many things he has taken out of the factory. Being a cook is really good, you can easily take anything from the government. Silly Zhu was also confused by his anger, and he dared to speak such words in public. Zhonghai's face changed when he heard the voices of everyone's discussion. Originally just a small matter of a chicken, but after Yuzhu's words, it has become a major crime of stealing public property. Silly pillar. Zhonghai shouted loudly, "Do you know what you're talking about?" Upon hearing this sound, Yuzhu shouted loudly, as if pouring a basin of cold water on his head, and his anger was completely extinguished. Scared out in a cold sweat, he knew he had said the wrong thing. Zhonghai said, "Silly pillar, you haven't taken anything from the factory before, have you?" Of course, Yuzhu cannot admit it at this moment. He knows that this is the step that Grandpa is giving himself. Following Zhonghai's words, he quickly said, "Of course, I never take things from the factory before. Every time I take leftovers, the factory manager knows." Uncle Heir, Lu Haizhong, asked, "Do you know about the chicken factory manager this time?" Seeing such a great opportunity, Lu Haizhong certainly won't miss it, which is a great credit. If you report it to the factory, it may lead to promotion and wealth. "Alright, don't talk about anything else," said Zhonghai, the eldest uncle. "The things in the factory are the things in the factory. Our courtyard is a matter of the courtyard." Since silly Zhu has cleared his suspicion, the only suspicious person is He. Second uncle Lu Haizhong and third uncle Yan Bugue changed the topic when they saw Zhonghai talking to a foolish pillar. "I understand everything, and I can't come up with a single outcome in the courtyard, nor can I grasp the handle of Yuzhu." So they all stopped talking. But the second uncle Lu Haizhong recorded this matter in his heart. Yuzhu's face turned pale, and something big happened just now. Although the weather was a bit cold, a small piece of Yuzhu's clothes, which were close to him, had already been soaked with sweat. He glared fiercely at He, feeling extremely dissatisfied with her. Uncle Lu Haizhong asked, "He, the suspicion of being a fool has been cleared. Now it's your turn. Everyone in your family knows the conditions. Eating enough has already become a problem, let alone buying chicken. You are just a temporary worker, only $17.50 per month. Alcoholism, gambling, and eating chicken, will you drink from the west and north in the future?" Lu Haizhong's words reminded He that the courtyard was just a little too big. There are countless eyes in the dark, observing things in the courtyard. Even if one lives a low-key life, they cannot avoid being spied upon by others. If you want a good life in the future, you still need some detours to make others feel that your things are reasonable. He said coldly, "Second master, although my salary is low, I am not so poor that I cannot even afford a chicken. Since everyone thinks I'm a chicken thief, why don't we just report it to the police? Let the police come and find out the truth, naturally you can wash away the suspicion on me. Let the real chicken thief have no way to escape. Uncle Lu Haizhong was overjoyed and called the police to his liking. He was arrested. The previous grudge was also avenged by Lu Haizhong. The next time I go to the factory and speak in front of the leaders, I have gained another layer of merit. Everyone has heard that he himself requested the alarm. It's not that I didn't give him a chance, since that's the case, then. No way. Uncle Lu Haizhong was about to make a decision to report to the police. Two voices echoed in unison, interrupting his words. Everyone's gaze followed the direction of the sound.